did not notice it at first. Life looked normal from the outside. He woke up every morning, checked his phone, went to work, and came home tired. His days blended together like scenes from a long, slow movie. But one evening, something small happened, something easy to miss. He was sitting alone in his room, doing nothing special, just letting his thoughts move on their own. A thought appeared in his mind. It spoke in his own voice. Then, without warning, it disappeared, and in that quiet space, a strange question formed. Who just noticed that thought? The question felt uncomfortable. It was not loud or dramatic. It was calm, almost innocent, but it stayed. He tried to ignore it. He stood up, walked around, and distracted himself, but the feeling followed him, like a shadow that moved when he moved. Later that night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark, but his mind felt awake. Thoughts came and went like passing clouds, and each time one appeared, something inside him noticed it. That noticing felt separate. It did not speak, it did not react, it simply watched, for the first time in his life. He felt distance between himself and his thoughts. Fear showed up, but it did not fully grab him. Worry appeared, but it felt weaker than before. It was as if his emotions were happening on a stage, and he was sitting quietly in the audience. A chill moved through his body, not fear exactly, more like the feeling you get when you realize you are not alone. He whispered to himself, "Why does it feel like something is watching?" The question scared him, because the watcher did not feel external. It was not in the room. It was not behind him. It felt closer than his own breath. As he focused on this presence, time seemed to slow down. The space between thoughts grew wider, and in that space, he felt something steady. It did not change. It did not rush. It did not need anything. A dangerous idea entered his mind. What if this presence had always been there, watching every thought, every feeling, every moment of his life? What if the voice in his head was not who he truly was? What if it was just a character speaking lines? His heart started to beat faster. If he was not the character, then who was he? And if he was the one watching the character, what did that make his life? The room felt unreal now, like a scene in a movie he had seen too many times, familiar, but suddenly distant. He realized something that made his chest tighten. If this was true, if he was the watcher and not the story, then all his struggles, all his fears, all his endless effort to control life, might be happening inside something much larger than he ever imagined. The thought terrified him, but at the same time, it brought a strange sense of relief. Because once you notice the watcher, you cannot go back to being only the character. And deep down, he knew this moment was not an accident. It was the beginning of something that would change how he saw reality forever. The next morning, he woke up feeling different. Nothing in the room had changed, but something inside him had shifted. As he moved through his day, he began to watch himself, not in a strange way, but with quiet curiosity. He noticed how his body moved without effort, how words came out of his mouth before he chose them, how emotions rose and fell like waves. At work, someone spoke sharply to him. Normally, anger would rise instantly, a tight feeling in his chest, a story forming in his head. But this time, he saw it happen. The anger appeared, the thoughts followed. Yet something remained untouched. He realized he had spent his entire life believing he was these reactions. Every emotion felt personal. Every thought felt like the truth. Now, he saw them as movements, patterns repeating themselves, like lines in a script he had memorized long ago. As the day went on, memories surfaced. Moments from childhood, times when he was praised, times when he was rejected. He noticed how each memory helped build the person he thought he was. The quiet one, the strong one, the one who needed approval, the one who feared failure. This image of himself felt solid for years, like a fixed identity, but now it looked more like a costume. He saw how the character was shaped by parents, by teachers, by society, by pain and pleasure. None of it was chosen consciously. The character was built automatically, layer by layer, moment by moment, and the character was always busy, always trying to improve, to fix, to prove something. He felt a deep tiredness as he noticed this. Not physical tiredness, but the exhaustion of pretending to be someone all the time. A quiet thought appeared. If this character is only a role, then who has been playing it? As soon as the question formed, silence followed. The same silent presence from the night before returned, watching, unmoving. For a moment, he felt compassion for the character. It was not the enemy. It was trying to survive in the only way it knew how. The fear, the ambition, the constant thinking, all of it was an attempt to stay safe, but safety never lasted, no matter how hard the character tried. Life always changed. He noticed something important. The character existed only when thoughts were present. When the mind went quiet, the character faded. But the watcher never disappeared. This realization made his chest feel light and heavy at the same time. Light with relief, heavy with uncertainty. If he was not the character, then all his past pain belonged to his story, not to his true nature. Yet a new fear appeared. If the character is not real in the way he believed, what happens to his goals, his dreams, his purpose? The day ended with these questions hanging in the air, unanswered, unresolved. As night came again, he sat quietly, watching thoughts rise and fall, watching the character appear and disappear, and slowly, a deeper truth began to form. The character was something he had, but it was not something he was, and whatever he truly was, it existed before every thought, before every memory, before every role he ever played. The story was no longer about fixing the character, it was about discovering what had been watching all along. He began to notice something subtle during the days that followed. It was not dramatic. There were no sudden visions or strong emotions, just a growing awareness of something steady in the background. Thoughts still came, plans, worries, memories. They rose and fell like waves on the surface of the ocean. But, beneath them, something felt still. He tested this, noticing when a happy thought appeared. He watched it. When a painful memory surfaced, he watched that too, no matter the content. The watcher did not change. This surprised him. He had always believed his happiness and sadness defined him. But now he saw that both appeared in the same space. One afternoon, he sat quietly and closed his eyes. Sounds came from outside. Cars passing, distant voices, the wind moving through trees. Each sound appeared, lasted for a moment, then faded away, yet something remained present before the sound. During the sound, and after the sound, he realized that experience itself needed a place to appear. A simple image formed in his mind. Life felt like a movie. Thoughts were the dialogue, feelings were the music, events were the scenes, and behind all of it, there was a screen. The screen did not judge the movie. It did not react to the story. It allowed every scene to appear without resistance. For the first time, he wondered, what if I am not inside the movie at all? What if the movie is appearing inside me? The idea felt impossible at first. He had spent his whole life believing he was a small figure moving through a large world. Now, the feeling was reversed. The world appeared inside awareness, not the other way around. He noticed that, when he stopped labeling things, when he did not name them or judge them, experience felt more open, more alive. Colors looked sharper, sounds felt closer, even silence seemed full. Time began to lose its tight grip. Moments no longer rushed toward. The next moment, they simply appeared, then dissolved. He saw that the screen was never affected by the movie. A sad scene did not damage it. A joyful scene did not improve it. No matter what played, the screen remained untouched. This realization brought both comfort and confusion. If this screen was always present, why had he never noticed it before? The answer came quietly. Because he was always focused on the story, never on what allowed the story to exist. He saw how attention worked like a spotlight. Where it pointed, reality seemed solid. Where it did not, reality felt invisible. For years, his attention stayed locked on the character, on success and failure, on fear and desire. Now the spotlight was turning around, illuminating the space itself. A gentle fear arose. If he stayed here, if he rested as the screen, would the world fall apart? But nothing stopped working. His body still breathed, his heart still beat. Life continued effortlessly. This surprised him the most. The movie did not need his control. As this understanding settled in, a quiet sense of freedom appeared. Not excitement, not pleasure, just ease. He did not feel above the world, or separate from it. He felt more connected than ever, because everything he experienced, every thought, every sound, every moment, was appearing in the same open space. He now recognized as himself, and once again, he sensed the truth. He was never trapped inside reality. Reality was unfolding inside him. At first, the change was so quiet he almost missed it. Nothing dramatic happened in his outer life. The same streets, the same work, the same people. But inside, something heavy was loosening. He noticed it one morning while getting ready for the day. The usual rush was there, tasks to complete, messages to answer, yet the tight pressure he once felt was softer, as if life was no longer pushing against him. Problems still appeared, deadlines, misunderstandings, small frustrations, but they no longer felt like personal attacks. When stress arose, he watched it. It moved through his body, created thoughts in his mind, then slowly faded. For the first time, he did not try to fix it immediately. He did not argue with his thoughts. He did not search for solutions in panic, and strangely, things still worked out. He began to see how much energy he had spent fighting life, resisting what was already happening, trying to control every outcome. The struggle was not in the events themselves, it was in his refusal to let them be as they were. Now, as awareness stayed open, the fight lost its fuel. He saw this clearly one evening. A memory surfaced, an old regret, something that once filled him with shame. The image appeared, the emotion followed, but instead of pulling him into the past, they floated in the open space of awareness. They were allowed to exist, without being pushed away, without being believed completely, and because of that, they passed. This surprised him deeply. For years, he believed healing meant fixing the past, understanding it, explaining it. Now he saw another way. Nothing needed to be solved, only seen. As this became clearer, the character inside him relaxed. The one that was always planning, always defending, always worried about the future. It did not disappear, but it no longer felt like the center of everything. He noticed moments of stillness during the day, standing in line, walking down the street, washing his hands. In these simple moments, there was no story, just presence. And in that presence, there was peace, not excitement, not pleasure, just peace. He realized that happiness was not something to chase. It was what remained when the struggle stopped. Life still had challenges, pain still visited, loss was still possible, but suffering was no longer automatic. Suffering needed resistance to survive, and resistance was slowly dissolving. This scared a part of him. If the struggle ended, who would he be without it? For so long, his identity was built on effort, on becoming, on improving. Letting go felt like standing on empty ground, but the ground held him. He saw that awareness did not collapse without struggle. It did not become weak or passive. Instead, it felt steady, clear, alive. He began to trust this space more than his thoughts, more than his fears. And with that trust came a quiet understanding. The struggle was never required. It was learned, and what is learned can gently fall away. As this truth settled in, he sensed that life was no longer something to survive. It was something to experience. And for the first time, he was not fighting the movie. He was letting it play. As the struggle faded, a new fear quietly took its place. It did not arrive as panic. It came as a question. If he was not the character, if awareness was the source, then who was in control of his life? This question followed him through the day, during conversations, during decisions, during moments that once felt important. He wondered, if he stopped trying to control everything, would his life fall apart? For years, effort felt like safety, planning felt like protection, worry felt responsible, letting go felt dangerous. One afternoon, he faced a small choice, a simple moment where he normally would overthink. This time, he paused and watched. Words appeared and left his mouth naturally. The moment passed without struggle. Nothing bad happened. This surprised him. Action did not disappear when control relaxed. It flowed. He began to see that life was already moving on its own. Breathing happened, walking happened, speaking happened. Even before he thought about them, the idea of a controller felt less solid. Now, more like a habit than a truth. Still, a deeper fear remained. If there was no controller, what about responsibility? Would letting go turn him careless, passive, detached from the world? He watched closely and discovered the opposite. Without constant inner noise, he listened better. He felt more. Actions felt cleaner, less driven by fear, more guided by clarity. He noticed kindness arising without effort, creativity appearing without force. The movie was not ending. It was becoming more natural. Yet another fear surfaced. If the character was not real in the way he believed, then what about meaning? For so long, meaning came from becoming someone, achieving something, reaching a future moment. Now, the present moment felt complete on its own. This completeness felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. If nothing was missing, what was there to chase? He sat with this question, allowing it to exist without answering it. Slowly, a realization formed. Meaning was not something added to life, it was something revealed when the noise stopped. Life did not need a purpose to justify itself, its unfolding was enough. This did not make him stop acting, it made his actions lighter. Goals still existed, but they were no longer tied to his worth. Success and failure lost some of their power. They became scenes in the movie, not judgments on the screen. A quiet trust began to grow. Not trust in outcomes, but trust in awareness itself. He saw that awareness did not abandon life. It allowed life to express itself fully. Letting the movie play did not mean giving up. It meant stopping the fight with what was already happening. And as this understanding deepened, he sensed he was approaching the final shift. A way of living where the character could move freely, while awareness remained untouched. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. Something else was taking its place. A calm readiness, as if he was finally prepared to live, not as the story, but as the source in which the story appears. Nothing special announced the final shift. There was no dramatic moment, no clear ending to the journey. Life simply continued. He woke up, went about his day, spoke to people, made plans, faced challenges. From the outside, he looked the same, but inside, everything felt different. The constant sense of being pushed by life was gone. He no longer felt trapped inside events. He felt present with them. Thoughts still appeared. Old habits still visited. The character still showed up when needed, but it no longer felt like him. It felt like a role being played, useful, temporary. Awareness remained open and steady, like a quiet sky behind changing weather. He noticed how easily moments came and went. A conversation ended, a feeling passed, a problem resolved or changed shape. Nothing stayed long enough to define him. This brought a deep sense of ease, not excitement, not pleasure, ease. He stopped asking life to be different. He stopped waiting for a future version of himself to arrive. Right here felt enough when challenges appeared. He met them fully, without adding extra fear, without turning them into stories about his worth. Pain still hurt, loss still mattered, but they moved through awareness instead of becoming his identity. He saw that being the source did not mean being distant. It meant being deeply involved without being trapped. Love felt clearer now, less about need, more about presence. Listening felt easier. Silence felt natural. He realized something simple and powerful. He had been searching his whole life for freedom, but freedom was not somewhere else. It was the space in which every experience had always appeared. The character still lived in the world, paid bills, made decisions, laughed, cried, but awareness, who was no longer lost inside the character. The movie played, but the screen was never shaken by the scenes. From time to time, the old struggle tried to return, a familiar voice saying he needed to fix himself, to become better, to arrive somewhere. And each time, he smiled quietly, not with pride, but with understanding. He had believed that voice for a long time. Now he saw it for what it was, just another sound appearing in silence. He no longer tried to escape the world, and he no longer tried to control it. He met life exactly where it was. In this way, nothing was rejected, nothing was clung to. Life flowed, and awareness remained. As the story comes to an end, one question lingers, not as an idea, but as an invitation. If you are aware of these words right now, if thoughts are appearing as you listen, if sensations rise and fall in your body, what is it that notices all of this? Are you the character moving through the story? Or are you the open space in which the entire story appears? The answer is not something to think about. It is something to notice, because the moment you see it, the struggle does not need to end. It simply falls away, and the movie continues, freely, naturally, inside you.